Okay, hi, this is my video discussion post for my educational background. So share with us your experience in education prior to attending GVSU. I went to Lakewood my whole life. It's a public school in a rural area, and it's in Lake Odessa, Michigan. In what ways did your school district affirm or challenge your sense of identity? I personally think that I had to seek out my own understanding, probably because there was not a lot of representation in schools. Like, all the teachers, most of the students were white, and so there wasn't really a lot of like conversations about other backgrounds at all. So most of the things that I learned about culture and diversity, like racial, cultural, social, economic, linguistic, all those things I had to learn for the most part outside of school because they weren't really included in the curriculum either. So yeah. What aspects of your educational upbringing do you recognize as privilege, and what do you see as barriers? So for the privilege, I think that one of them would be not having to move or switch school districts ever, because my mom, growing up, she had to travel around a lot, and I recognize that was like hard for her and having to always adjust. So I think it was nice to like settle down somewhere. And that's not something you would really think of as a privilege typically, but like I think for sure for me it would have been hard to move around so much. Also, access to supplies and access to dual enrollment. My school did a pretty good job at providing extra resources and like extra like further education when it came to like getting ahead in dual enrolled classes. So some barriers would be lack of funding to update certain aspects of the school. It's just kind of outdated. Some of the athletics, some of the buildings, some of the bus garages are pretty outdated, and people have like voted to, like, they've had bonds to try to update those things, but it's not really been passed yet. Also a lack of unique classes. There are very like baseline classes. There weren't lots of extra subjects to explore, which I think would have been very helpful. Especially like when trying to decide what I wanted to do after high school. I think it would have been more helpful to like open my eyes and to other opportunities other than just like basics. Okay, so what are 3 things that you wished that you would have learned more about in education growing up? Okay, I said I wish I learned more about personal finance and planning because I had to learn a lot about that from my parents. And while they know a good amount, like just because of experience, it would have been nice to like take classes and have that knowledge in the back of my head, I guess. And it would have been very helpful when it came to budgeting and stuff like that. Also, cultural studies, because like I said before, that just wasn't available, and I think it would have just kind of opened everybody's eyes up to like other perspectives or different backgrounds. And then also coding, I think that is just like a good basic skill to have in all like career paths maybe. And also it just like kind of interests me. I want to learn more about that. Things I would like to be changed: offering more unique classes and administration to handle conflicts better, because that one especially, because my school has been known to not handle certain situations very well. What do you feel are 3 biggest issues in our American educational system, and how can you fix it? Okay. So first I said low pay for teachers, and the teacher shortage. For sure that's a big issue because I don't know, we just need teachers, and they're like forming the people of the future. And I think that having a good teachers like K through 12 is what inspires you like after and makes you like who you are after you graduate. So how to fix that? Probably just increasing their pay or giving them more benefits so that it can incentivize like new people to come in or people to stay for long term instead of just like hopping through schools. Then I had to look up another idea, funding inequity, moving away from reliance on property taxes or adopting state level funding or state weighted funding, just so that like everyone has more equal opportunity, despite like the areas that the school might be in. Everyone's kind of given like a better funding so that they can have better opportunities within their schools. And then school safety and violence. I think that training educators to like handle certain situations and like creating more like stronger student staff relationships. Also like a better reporting system for these kind of things would definitely help. Whose stories, cultures, and perspectives were centered in your education and whose were marginalized or omitted? I wrote this one out, so I'm just going to read it. When learning about U.S. history, it's very centered around the Western perspective, those who came here later, and much less of the indigenous point of view. It kind of favors Western science and ideas significantly when we were taught about the founding of the country in general. Like I remember when we were learning about things like policy and land ownership, and just like history and science, a lot of that was just left untold to favor the people who colonized the country. How did your district handle conversations about race, class, gender, and social issues? What impact did they have on you? There was very little diversity in my school district. Conversations about race, class, gender, and inequity were very rare. And I felt that the absence was weird, and it was hard, not hard, it was just kind of an adjustment to leave the environment because that's where I grew up. A lot of the things that I learned, like I said, like they were outside of school. I don't think education had too much to play in my perspectives of how I handle those conversations. But once I left, it became clear that I was not as educated as others on certain topics. In your opinion, what role should the government play in our education system? What can be done to fix it? So I said ensure access to education regardless of certain qualities through equitable funding, quality educators, enforcing protections, better curriculum. I think those are the standards that should be held like across all schools across the country.